What if I told you that an Amazon Alexa device recorded voices of a family that disappeared 35 years ago? Voices pleading for help from people who should be dead or ancient by now. The Aguiar family vanished without a trace during their 1988 New Mexico vacation. No bodies, no evidence, no answers. Until a smart speaker in an abandoned house started playing recordings that shouldn't exist. Stay until the end, because what that Alexa captured will change everything you think you know about missing persons cases. I've been investigating cold cases for over 2 decades, but nothing prepared me for what I discovered about the Aguiar family. It started as a routine request from the Santa Fe Police Department. They wanted me to review a 35-year-old missing persons case that had suddenly become active again. The reason? Technology that didn't exist when the family first disappeared. The Aguiars seemed like the perfect American family. Miguel Aguiar, 42, worked as an aerospace engineer for a defense contractor in Albuquerque. His wife Carmen, 39, taught elementary school and painted watercolors in her spare time. Their children were the kind you'd see on vacation brochures. Sophia, 16, honor student and varsity swimmer. Diego, 14, gifted in mathematics with dreams of following his father into engineering, and little Anna, just 8 years old, who collected rocks and believed every star in the sky had a story. In July 1988, they planned what should have been a perfect 2-week vacation. Miguel had inherited a remote cabin from his uncle, nestled deep in the Carson National Forest, about 3 hours north of Albuquerque. The cabin sat at the end of a winding dirt road, surrounded by towering pines and complete silence. No neighbors for miles, no cell towers back then. Just pure, isolated wilderness that promised the family a chance to disconnect from the world. The last confirmed sighting of the Aguiars was at a gas station in Española, New Mexico, on July 15, 1988. The clerk remembered them because little Anna had insisted on buying a dream catcher from the gift shop, claiming it would protect their vacation. Miguel had laughed, ruffling her hair as he paid for gas and snacks. Carmen had been studying a map, tracing their route with her finger. The teenagers sat in the back of their blue Ford Explorer, Sophia reading a paperback novel, Diego sketching something in a notebook. They drove away from that gas station at 3:47 p.m., heading toward what should have been 2 weeks of hiking, fishing, and family bonding. Instead, they drove toward something that would defy explanation for 35 years. The cabin, according to property records, had been in the Aguiar family since 1952. Miguel's uncle had used it as a hunting retreat until his death the previous year. The structure was solid but basic. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living area with a stone fireplace, and an old root cellar that doubled as storage. What made this cabin unique was its location. Situated in a natural bowl surrounded by hills, it was invisible from any main road. The nearest neighbor was 12 miles away. It was the kind of place where you could scream and know with certainty that no one would hear you. For a family wanting privacy, it was perfect. For whatever happened next, it was ideal. Miguel had told his co-workers they'd be back July 29th. Carmen had arranged for her sister to water their plants and collect their mail. Sophia had promised her best friend she'd call when they returned with stories about their wilderness adventure. Diego had left his science project materials organized on his desk, planning to finish when they got back. Every detail suggested a family fully intending to return to their normal lives. But July 29th came and went. No phone call, no family, just silence. When the Aguiars failed to return from their vacation, Carmen's sister Maria was the first to worry. She had keys to their Albuquerque home and found everything exactly as they'd left it. Beds made, dishes clean, mail piling up in neat stacks where she'd placed it. Miguel's work called asking about his absence. Sophia's summer job at the community pool wanted to know if she was coming back. By August 5th, Maria contacted the police. The missing persons report described a family of 5 who had simply vanished. Their credit cards showed no activity after the gas station purchase in Española. Their bank account remained untouched. It was as if they had driven into the wilderness and been erased from existence. The initial search focused on the cabin and surrounding forest. When deputies finally located the remote property on August 8th, they found the Ford Explorer parked beside the cabin, keys still in the ignition. The doors were unlocked. Inside the vehicle, they discovered the family's luggage, neatly packed and apparently untouched. Sophia's novel lay bookmarked on the seat. Diego's sketchpad showed drawings of pine trees and mountain views. Anna's dreamcatcher hung from the rearview mirror, turning slowly in the afternoon breeze. The cabin itself told a stranger story. The front door stood wide open, but there were no signs of struggle. The family's belongings were scattered throughout, as if they had been living there. Clothes in the bedrooms, food in the kitchen, Carmen's watercolor supplies set up by a window overlooking the forest. But everything felt frozen in time, as if the family had simply stepped outside for a moment and never returned. Search teams combed the forest for weeks. They brought in tracking dogs, helicopter crews, and volunteers from 3 counties. The dogs picked up scent trails that led in multiple directions before simply stopping, as if the family had vanished into thin air. Searchers found no clothing, no bodies, no evidence of an animal attack or foul play. The case generated significant media attention. Local news stations ran stories about the vanishing family. Psychics offered their services. Conspiracy theorists suggested everything from alien abduction to government cover-ups, citing Miguel's work in aerospace. But as weeks turned to months with no new evidence, the story faded from headlines. Detective Raymond Torres led the original investigation and would later tell me it was the most frustrating case of his career. Every lead went nowhere. The family had no enemies, no financial troubles, no history of mental illness or substance abuse. They were, by all accounts, happy and stable, yet they had simply ceased to exist. The case officially went cold in 1991. The cabin was eventually sold to pay property taxes. Miguel and Carmen were declared legally dead in 1995. Sophia would have graduated high school, gone to college, maybe started a family of her own. Diego would be approaching 50 now, possibly with engineering achievements of his own. Inna would be in her early 40s, perhaps with children who never got to meet their grandparents. For 32 years, the Aguiar family existed only in missing persons databases and the memories of those who loved them. The cabin changed hands several times, each owner eventually abandoning it due to its remote location and the local reputation it had acquired. By 2020, it sat empty again, slowly being reclaimed by the forest. Then, in early 2023, everything changed. A tech entrepreneur named David Chen purchased the property site unseen through an online auction. His plan was simple: renovate the cabin as a remote work retreat and test location for his company's new Internet of Things devices. The irony wasn't lost on him. Bringing cutting-edge technology to a place where a family had vanished in simpler times. Chen's team installed solar panels, satellite internet, and various smart home devices as part of their technology integration project. Among these devices was an Amazon Alexa, positioned in the main living area to control lighting, temperature, and music streaming. The setup was completed in March 2023, and Chen began using the cabin for weekend retreats and product testing. For the first few months, everything functioned normally. The Alexa responded to commands, played music, and provided weather updates. Chen often worked alone at the cabin, appreciating the silence and isolation that had once drawn the Aguiar family to this same spot. He knew about the disappearance, it was mentioned in the property disclosure, but considered it ancient history. The first anomaly occurred on July 15, 2023, exactly 35 years after the Aguiars were last seen alive. Chen was working late when the Alexa suddenly activated without being prompted. The blue ring lit up, and a voice emerged that made his blood freeze. It was a child's voice, barely a whisper. "Help us! Please, someone help us! We can't get out." Chen initially dismissed it as a malfunction or interference from another device, but when he checked the Alexa app on his phone, there was no record of any activation, no voice commands logged, no history of the incident at all. He unplugged the device and went to bed, convincing himself it was his imagination working overtime in the isolated cabin. 3 days later, it happened again. This time, Chen was ready. He had set up a recording system after the first incident, determined to document any further anomalies. At 11:47 p.m., the Alexa activated on its own. The blue ring pulsed, and multiple voices began speaking simultaneously. Chen recognized distinct speakers: an adult male, an adult female, 2 teenagers, and a young child. The male voice, speaking with what sounded like barely controlled panic. "Miguel here. If anyone receives this, we've been trapped in the cabin since July 15th. Something is wrong with this place. The doors won't open, the windows won't break. We need help immediately." The female voice crying, "Carmen Aguiar. We have 3 children with us, Sofia, Diego, and Ana. We've been here for days. The food is running out. Please, if anyone can hear this, send help to the Carson National Forest cabin on the old mining road." Then the teenage voices overlapping. "This is Sofia. The walls are getting closer. I don't understand what's happening." "Diego here. The physics don't make sense. It's like the cabin is shrinking." Finally, the child's voice that would haunt Chen's dreams. "Ana, I'm scared. The dream catcher isn't working. Mommy says the bad thing found us anyway." The voices continued for 17 minutes before abruptly cutting off. Chen sat in stunned silence, his recording equipment capturing every word. When he tried to activate the Alexa normally, it responded as if nothing had happened. But those voices, desperate, terrified, impossible, continued to echo in the empty cabin. Chen contacted the local sheriff's department the next morning. Deputy Sarah Martinez, who had heard stories about the Aguiar case from veteran officers, initially approached Chen's report with skepticism. But when she heard the recordings, her skepticism turned to unease. The voices matched the ages and names of the missing family members. More disturbing was the content. The family seemed to believe they had been trapped for only days, not decades. The sheriff's department contacted me 3 days later. As a cold case specialist with experience in unusual circumstances, they wanted my assessment of Chen's claims and recordings. I drove to the cabin on July 25, 2023, carrying both professional skepticism and genuine curiosity about what I might find. My first observation was the cabin's physical impossibility of the family's apparent situation. The doors opened normally. The windows, though old, showed no signs of unusual reinforcement or barrier. Yet the voices on Chen's recording spoke of being trapped, unable to escape through these same openings. I spent hours examining every inch of the structure, looking for hidden rooms, false walls, or any feature that might explain the family's claims of confinement. What I found instead was far more disturbing than any physical trap. In the root cellar beneath the cabin, I discovered something that shouldn't have been there: fresh scratches on the wooden walls, as if made by fingernails. But these weren't old marks from 1988. The wood shavings at the base of the scratches hadn't yellowed or dried. They looked recent, possibly made within the last few weeks. More unsettling were the messages scratched into the cellar walls, in different handwriting styles that seemed to match the family members. Day 12, food almost gone, in what appeared to be Miguel's methodical engineer's writing. The air tastes wrong, in Carmen's more artistic script. I calculated the dimensions yesterday and again today. The room is smaller, in Diego's precise teenage hand. Sofia says she remembers a door here, but there isn't one, in a child's uncertain letters that could only be Anna's. But the most chilling discovery was a message that made no chronological sense. It's 2023 outside. We can hear the man with the computer. He doesn't know we're still here. I documented everything, photographed every scratch and message, measured the cellar's dimensions repeatedly. According to my instruments, the root cellar measured exactly what it should based on the cabin's original blueprints. But if the family's scratched messages were accurate, the space had somehow been larger when they were trapped there. The physics were impossible, yet the evidence suggested otherwise. Chen's recordings continued throughout my investigation. Each night, at varying times, the Alexa would activate without prompting. The family's voices would emerge, always desperate, always confused about the passage of time. They spoke of being trapped for days or weeks, never acknowledging the 35 years that had actually passed. Their conversations revealed a growing desperation and a reality that seemed to shift around them. On July 30th, the night before I was scheduled to return to Albuquerque, the most disturbing recording yet occurred. I was present in the cabin with Chen, both of us watching the Alexa for any sign of activation. At exactly midnight, the device lit up, but this time the voices were different, calmer, more aware. Miguel's voice no longer panicked. "We know you're listening now. The man with the computer and the investigator. You found our messages." Carmen's voice sad but clear. "We've been trying to leave for so long, but this place won't let us go. It keeps us here, keeps us trapped between the time we arrived and the time we should have left." Sophia's voice, mature beyond her 16 years. "We watch you through the walls sometimes. You live in our future, but we're still stuck in our past." Diego's voice, analytical even in desperation. "I think we died here, but we don't remember dying. We just remember being trapped over and over in the same few days." Anna's voice, still childlike but somehow ancient. "The dream catcher was supposed to protect us from bad dreams, but what if we became the bad dream?" The recording continued for over an hour that night. The family described a reality where they had been reliving their final days at the cabin, repeatedly, for 35 years. They spoke of watching previous cabin owners come and go, unable to interact with the living world until Chen's Alexa provided a bridge between their trapped existence and our timeline. The conversations revealed details about their final days that had never been part of the official record. They described feeling increasingly unwell after their first night at the cabin. Miguel mentioned a strange taste in the water from the well. Carmen spoke of headaches that grew progressively worse. The children complained of nightmares that seemed more real than their waking hours. Most disturbing was their description of the change, a moment when the cabin itself seemed to shift around them. Doors that had opened easily became immovable barriers. Windows that had offered views of the forest showed only darkness. The walls began to feel closer each day, though measurements suggested no physical change. According to their account, they had tried everything to escape. Miguel had attempted to break down doors and windows. Carmen had tried to dig their way out through the root cellar. The children had searched for weak points in the cabin's structure. Nothing worked. They described feeling as if the building itself had become a living thing, feeding on their presence and growing stronger with each passing day. The family's final recording came on August 1st, 2023. Their voices were different again, resigned, almost peaceful. Miguel spoke first. "We understand now. This place took us, but it's been keeping us for a reason. We were meant to warn others." Carmen's voice carried a mother's love even in desperation. "Don't let your families come to places like this. Don't trust isolation. Don't believe that emptiness is peaceful." The teenagers spoke together, their voices overlapping. "We were supposed to have futures, college, careers, children of our own, but our future got trapped in this moment, in this place." Anna's voice, still 8 years old after 35 years. "The dream catcher couldn't protect us because the nightmare was already inside the cabin when we got here." Then Miguel spoke one final time. "We're going to try to leave again. The investigator and the man with the computer have given us hope that maybe this time will be different. If these are our last words, please tell our family we love them. Tell them we never stop trying to come home." The Alexa went silent at 2:33 a.m. on August the 2nd, 2023. It has never activated on its own again. Chen's attempts to trigger the phenomenon have failed. The device responds normally to commands but shows no trace of the impossible recordings that had emerged from it for 2 weeks. I filed my report with the Santa Fe Police Department on August 15, 2023. It included complete documentation of the recordings, photographs of the cellar scratches, and my professional assessment of the case. My conclusion was necessarily limited. Unexplained phenomena had occurred at the cabin, but the ultimate fate of the Aguiar family remained unknown. The case has since attracted attention from paranormal investigators, technology experts, and grief counselors working with the surviving Aguiar relatives. Chen has discontinued his use of the cabin and is considering donating it to a university for paranormal research. The local sheriff's department has reopened the missing persons case, though they acknowledge that traditional investigative methods may not apply to whatever happened at the cabin. What disturbs me most as an investigator is the possibility that the Aguiar family's experience continues. Their voices suggested they were trapped in a loop, reliving their final days repeatedly. If accurate, they may still be there, existing in some space between our reality and whatever took them in 1988. The Alexa may have provided temporary communication, but it didn't offer salvation. I returned to the cabin periodically, hoping for new evidence or another opportunity to help the family find peace. But the building sits silent now, keeping its secrets. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind moves through the pines, I think I can hear voices calling for help. But when I investigate, I find only empty rooms and the persistent scent of fear that seems to have soaked into the cabin's very walls. The Aguiar family came to the Carson National Forest seeking peace and connection in July 1988. Instead, they found something that transformed their vacation into a 35-year nightmare. Their story raises questions about the nature of reality, the power of place, and the possibility that some disappearances aren't endings but beginnings of something far worse than death. What happened to the Aguiar family defies explanation, but their voices through the Alexa device provided a glimpse into a horror that may still be ongoing. They wanted to come home. They tried for 35 years to escape whatever trapped them in that cabin. And despite the technology that finally allowed them to be heard, they may still be there, waiting for someone to find a way to bring them back to the world they left behind.